Let's check the latest news updates with Vishal.
Hello and welcome to Friends World TV. I'm your host Vishal Venkatesh, and today we'll be looking at both the national news headlines and the global news headlines. But first, let's go through a very brief summary. A teenage boy is dead after being bitten by a shark while surfing off the New South Wales mid-north coast in an area described as a shark hotspot. A Melbourne man has been charged with failing to follow directions to self-isolate for 2 weeks upon his arrival to South Australia. Coronavirus border checks continue as 2 more cases have been officially recorded in the city of Queensland. Premier Mark McGowan has called for a wildlife officer who posed for photographs with dead big game animals in Africa to be sacked, calling his actions depraved, disgusting and disgraceful to say the least. Sudan's ruling body has ratified a new law, it's a very fresh law, banning the widespread practice of FGM, also known as female genital mutilation. And this is said by the Justice Ministry, handing the movement for women's rights in the African country a long-sought victory. Turkey's president makes Hagia Sophia a mosque after an annulled decision that it turned into a museum. Malaysian police investigate Australian journalists over a very infamous Al Jazeera documentary. Movie star Johnny Depp has told London's High Court that his ex-wife Amber Heard or a friend defecated in their bed in what he described as a fitting end to the relationship. Now to the news in more detail. A teenage boy is dead after being bitten by a shark while surfing off the New South Wales mid-north coast in an area described as a shark hotspot. The 15-year-old was surfing at Wilson's Headland in Woolai Beach near Grafton and the city of North Coffs Harbour just before 2:30 p.m. yesterday when he was officially attacked. The shark attack unfortunately left him with very severe injuries, especially to his legs. Several surfers, however, came to the aid at the spot and helped the teen to reach the shore for medical attention, which he then of course received. But despite CPR and emergency services, the paramedics were not able to revive him, and as a result, the boy died on the scene. A Melbourne man has been charged with failing to follow directions to self-isolate for 2 weeks upon his arrival in South Australia. South Australian police attended a property in Glenelg at about 8 p.m. on Thursday after receiving information that the man was not quarantining at the place nominated by him following his entry into the state from Victoria on Wednesday. On arrival, police allegedly spotted the man leaving and driving away in a Holden SUV. That is what the vehicle is believed to be. Patrols, however, followed the man and upon stopping his car, discovered that he only had booked himself accommodation for 1 single night, not 2 or 3 days, just 1 night, as opposed to 13 nights that he was required to self-isolate by law. The 35-year-old is from the city of Keysborough in Melbourne's southeast, and he has been charged with failing to comply with the direction, and as a result of this, he was refused bail. He appeared in the Adelaide's Magistrates Court on Friday and was remanded to custody, and he is expected to reappear at around August 12th or August 13th. A surge of arrivals in Queensland waits at the border. A day after the state lifted coronavirus travel bans on most interstate visitors, almost 420,000 cases, COVID test cases, have been carried out since late January of this year in just Queensland alone. As of last Friday, more than 314,000 people have downloaded passes to enter Queensland within 7 days. And of course, all the airports in Queensland expect tens of thousands of arrivals and passengers within the next 7 days to 10 days. Premier Mark McGowan has called for a wildlife officer who posed for photographs with dead big game animals in Africa to be sacked, calling his actions depraved, disgusting, and disgraceful to say the least. Jewel Crossberg, who was recently appointed as acting district manager for the Esperance region, has now been officially removed from his position by the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions. A review of his role was ordered after concerns were raised by local citizens who sent images from Mr. Crossberg's Facebook page to the media. The 2010 photographs appear to depict him trophy hunting. Mr. Crossberg was also found to be posing with a rifle next to a dead rhinoceros, elephant, giraffe, and also a number of zebras. Hunting is legal in many African game parks, and Mr. Crossberg remains employed by the department. Sudan's ruling body has ratified a new and fresh law that bans the widespread practice of female genital mutilation. The Justice Ministry says, handing the movement for women's rights in Africa a long-sought victory. Practicing FGM now carries a sentence of up to 3 years of imprisonment within Sudan. Another legal amendment allows women to travel with their children without their spouse's permission. However, NGO activists and also government-related activists say that the COVID-19 pandemic will hinder awareness campaigns and also police training about FGM. A UN-backed survey in 2014 estimated that 87% of Sudanese women and girls aged between 15 and 19 have been subject to this horrific procedure.
And also among the diaspora of those countries. According to the WHO, the most common reason cited for FGM in many communities is a belief that it will reduce a woman's libido and help her resist extramarital sex. Even though there has been an overall decline of FGM over the last 3 decades, and it has been banned in many countries that previously allowed it, it is still taking place illegally in many communities.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has formally reconverted Istanbul's iconic 6th century Hagia Sophia into a mosque and declared it open to Muslim worship. And this happened just hours after a High Court annulled a 1934 decision that it had turned into a museum. The decision to reconvert Hagia Sophia, a former cathedral that was turned into a mosque after Istanbul's conquest by the Ottoman Empire, and had served as a museum for 86 years, close to a century nearly. And as a result of this, what had been sparked was essentially a deep dismay among Orthodox Christians. Turkey's High Court annulled the 1934 cabinet decision that turned the site into a museum. And within just hours, Mr. Erdogan signed a decree handing over the Hagia Sophia to Turkey's Religious Affairs Presidency.
This Turkish journalist and writer worries about the message it sends to the Christian minority, calling it a political move by a populist leader.
It's not an accident that he's doing this right at the time that his support is going down to some extent because of the discontent in Turkey, a bad economy, a lot of complaints with corruption and authoritarianism. There are a few new parties that actually appeal to the religious voters that are challenging Erdogan.
The move has been condemned by the head of the Eastern Orthodox Church and by neighboring countries like Greece. Even Erdogan's ally, Russia, says it's a mistake.
Is going to play that up as saying, I'm still a strong leader. I don't care what the international community says. I'm standing up to, foreign powers.
The government says Hagia Sophia will still welcome tourists and Christians. But UNESCO calls Turkey's decision regrettable and says it will be reviewing its status as a World Heritage Site.
A group of 6 journalists, including 5 Australian journalists, should learn within days if they will be required to be subject to a charge over a news story which has really angered Malaysian authorities, especially the police. Human rights groups say that the Malaysian police investigation of the Al Jazeera journalists is a chilling example of diminishing press freedom in the country. The journalists were questioned by police in Kuala Lumpur on Friday and are facing possible charges of sedition, defamation, and vilification on social media. Both offences carry possible potential for imprisonment, and authorities are also investigating whether the group has violated Malaysia's Communication and the Multimedia Act. Movie star Johnny Depp has told London's High Court that his ex-wife Amber Heard and her friend have defecated in their bed in what he described as fitting end to the relationship. Amber Heard has accused her ex-husband, Hollywood superstar Johnny Depp, of physical attacks over a 3-year period, and Mr. Depp, currently aged 57, has denied the allegations and has told the court that she assaulted him. Ms. Heard is due to give evidence next week.
Quote, an insurance policy. He says that not only did he not abuse her, he says he felt that he was the one abused. And we talk about the sullied details, salacious nature of it, as you mentioned, Michael. At one point, he says that he knew the marriage was over when a cleaning person found excrement, that is, in their marital bed. So there are just really some eyebrow-raising details to this that people are very surprised to hear, because we don't normally hear of celebrities of the stature having this kind of information being brought out into the public. But of course, this is all part and parcel of this court case that has to do with that newspaper article, because the newspaper owner is defending himself, saying that they can back up their claims of calling him a, quote, wife beater because of Amber Heard's allegations. So it's turned into this really intense he said, she said, and there's no end to it in sight just yet, Michael.
Thank you for joining us this week. I'll see you next week. Thank you.